Hello, everyone, and welcome to Good Body, Good Brain podcast. Today, we have a very special guest I'll tell you about in just a minute. But first, I have to do a commercial. Our commercial is on May the 30th. Claire George, who's a healthy habits coach, is going to be with me on a LinkedIn Live. It'll be 12 noon Central Standard Time, and we'll be talking about how the gut and the microbiome in the gut impacts dementia. It will be part four of our four-part series on the gut and how it really affects the entire bodily system. So that's my commercial. Please join us. I'm going to leave it up for just a little bit. And my special guest today is from the UK, and we're all the way across the pond. And it is my friend, Einav Avni, and she is an emotional untangling coach, and her company is called Untangled Healing. Oh, I love that. Untangled Healing. It really is the essence of what you do, because you look at people's emotions and figure out how that impacts their physicality and vice versa. And so I know you've got some wonderful, wonderful stories, but I'm going to take this commercial down and then we're going to do something else. Here's the question of the day. What's the root cause of an emotional condition? So take it away. Tell us what you do, how you do it, and some of the outcomes have appeared in your practice.
Thank you, Sally. Thank you so much for inviting me for the podcast. And I'm so excited to be here and speak and share some of the stuff that I do with your listeners. So where do I start, actually? I guess the first thing is just a small, the question of the day is really the emotional root cause of chronic conditions.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do with people, really, I use the emotion code, the body code, and the belief code to help people suffering from chronic pain, chronic illness, or unexplained medical conditions to heal or reduce their symptoms. And I do this by kind of dividing it into two parts. So I have the energy healings that I just described. And this means that I get to connect with people and help them release blockages from the energy field. And the other thing that I do is in the conversation, and this is really about the emotional root cause, we work out where is it that they've moved away from the purpose, the meaning, the life that they were really that they came here to live. And we are able to work out together where they're operating from fears and limitations, and how to then turn it around so that they find trust and empowerment and alignment. And this combination really means that people can release the symptoms and get back into this alignment that they didn't have for a while, at least.
Oh, I love that. I love that. More recently, I've had some people who do different types of energetic, magnetic sort of healings, and also one of them calls himself a reality interventionist. So he looks at the story and how the story came to be, and then goes back to where the story began. And he himself healed himself from rheumatoid arthritis because his story was, I need to be sick so I'm not responsible for my family. And this was when he was around 18 years old. And an uncle came to him and asked him about what he was thinking about, what his fears were growing up. He said, well, I'm afraid that I'm going to have to care for my family because his father had died. His mother was frail. And he said to him, well, you have created the perfect way to not be responsible. You created an illness in your body that gives you so much pain that you can't get out of bed. And he felt like a thunderbolt went off in his head. And he started thinking about it. And 2 days later, the rheumatoid arthritis was gone. And now he's in his 40s and it's never come back. So yes,
Well,
it's like
yeah,
is miraculous, but yet our body is wired this way. And you
exactly.
have found a wonderful way to connect with the body and speak to the body and speak to the emotions and help people heal this way.
Exactly. I truly and honestly believe that our whatever conditions that we are suffering from, as long as they are chronic and not acute, of course,
Mm-hmm,
it means that the body, subconscious mind, call it what you like,
mm-hmm,
is trying to say basically, I've tried to give you so many messages to try and get you on the right trajectory, and
mm-hmm,
you've ignored me. You've allowed stress and limitations and compromises to come in, and now the only thing I get to do, only thing I can do, is actually give you or produce this condition. And now
mm-hmm,
I basically make you pause and start reflecting on what is it that is going on in your life, maybe now or maybe when you were young. But it doesn't really matter when it happened. It just means
mm-hmm,
that you haven't processed it. You haven't understood the gift in whatever it is that you've been through. And when I say gift, some people get triggered, and
mm-hmm,
I know that, but I do mean it as a gift because we are spiritual beings in a human body. We're not meant to suffer. We're not meant
mm-hmm,
to be small and limited. And so when we are given this opportunity to really pause and reflect, we can see that maybe for a moment we forgot our powers, we forgot how incredible we are and how limitless we are, and we succumb to that small thinking. And I say small thinking, and I'm not trying to, of
mm-hmm,
course, diss anything or say to anyone that they're not suffering. Of course, the suffering is very real. But when you understand how you were behaving from fears and limitations, you now have the opportunity to say, okay, so what do I do differently? And now all of a sudden, you're able to park your ego, because your ego is always going to try and tell you that
mm-hmm,
you're hard done by, or that you need more protection and stuff. So when you park the ego and you say, really, what is it? How am I living my life? What is going on here really? And then you can see that maybe you're going to a job that you don't like, or maybe you're in a relationship that don't work for you, or maybe it's been forever since you played your guitar or went out with friends. And all of these little things, of course, together with potential anything that happened in your childhood, is bringing to this place where the body says, I just can't take it anymore. And now, because you didn't do what I was kind of hinting to you that you should do, I'm going to take over. So when people are able to connect with the gift and see how they were and understand a little bit more about what the message is, then, like you said with your guest, conditions just fall away. They fall by the wayside, and you're able to pick up your life from where you really meant to live them, not from where you just did.
I call it being stopped in your tracks.
Mm,
Um, our universe, whether we call it spiritual God, whatever our representation of that thing that's bigger than us, that has us here for a purpose,
mm,
whenever we get those little messages, each one of them, I sort of think in my mind, get get a little bit stronger. Like it might start out like we get sick for maybe 3 or 4 days from the flu, and then we recover from it and we go right back to where we were, not eating properly, not exercising, not taking care of ourselves, et cetera, et cetera. And
mm,
then a little bit later something else comes up, and then finally whatever entity that says you're not listening has to take out the 2x4 and say, bam, you're stopping in your tracks until you either listen to what's going on and get out of it, or seek help from someone who is wise like you are. And when you were telling me about that experience, that internal experience of putting your ego aside and listening, and it is a gift. It's truly a gift. It's a gift of contrast, because we
mm.
use contrast to know what's working and what's not working. That gift, I just got cold chills. I just totally got cold chills when you said all that.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. You know, it's I like to, when I walk with people, I like to listen to the story. I like to to listen to words that they're saying, and really get these cues of how they're doing the illness or the pain, or the condition. And you can really see how people, get themselves into patterns of behaviors, or they get to sell themselves, like I said earlier, to play really small, or to just somehow believe that all this stress that they're going through is normal and natural. So it's interesting for me, because I like to, I guess I need to take it a step, to go a step backward, and say that actually, of course, I can only work with people that are already understanding. They already have that in the understanding that the conditions and the illnesses are not here to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, whatever they've been diagnosed with, whatever the doctors told them, is not a life sentence. It's actually just an encouragement to now go and find their own way to change, to heal from it, to bring in,
Mm-hmm.
the big guns, really, but not with pharmaceutical necessarily, but actually find a natural way to listen to the emotions, listen to the stress, listen to the pressures, and then change how they've been operating all along, or at least for a while. So when people do come to me, they're already aware that they need to learn to listen to what is really going on. So I had one client, for example. I mean, I had a few of them, but he's always stuck in my mind. That when he came to me, his pain level was 9, 10 out of 10 constantly. He just
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do anything, and it was really tough for him. But very quickly, we were able to reduce his pain levels to, well, it went completely. Now he's completely pain free, of course. But at some point, when his pain levels would be around 3 or 4, and then all of a sudden, he would say, "Oh, it's jumped up to 7 again," and we would say, what's going on, what is going on with this, with this jump. And then we would be able to go back and see that actually there was an emotional event that he
Mm-hmm.
didn't acknowledge, and the pain was now being like, you know a kind of a
Spotlight.
spotlight, something that helped him to see
Mm-hmm.
that actually he was going back to his old ways of not paying
Mm-hmm.
attention, and to getting, stress instead of releasing things. Now, there was a point there that I was going to mention, and I lost it somewhere. So, yeah.
I want to ask you, because what you do is very intense. How do you protect yourself?
So I don't. It's a good question, actually, because
Mm-hmm.
before I started with the coaching, I initially wanted, a long time ago, I thought, oh, psychology, I want to do that, become a therapist, and I was very scared about taking people's um, pain and suffering onto me.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't do that at all, and I don't feel that I need the protection, because the people
Mm-hmm.
who come to me, they already know that they're not in the story of suffering. They're
Mm-hmm.
always able to see that actually this is really just a pause until they can reconfigure themselves and move backwards onto the right trajectory. So the
Mm-hmm.
people don't come to me. I mean, of course, they share with me the sufferings and the traumas and all of
Mm-hmm.
that, but because we are able to see together that this is just it's just here for a moment,
Yeah.
then it doesn't come on to me, because
Good. Good.
I always ask that question, because I know that we grow from suffering. We can't,
Mm-hmm.
if we grow from comfort, we would always just be on the sofa and didn't
Mm-hmm.
do anything, right? We wouldn't do
Mm-hmm.
anything. So we know that we grow from suffering. So I'm saying, okay, so if I'm suffering, or if I'm being triggered right now, then the question has to be, how come? How come this is
Mm-hmm.
happening for me right now? And then I am able again to park this ego to one side and say, what is going on? I understand that I'm being triggered because I'm being prepared for something that is bigger and better. So instead of connecting with the suffering, let me now see, what is the lesson that I'm meant to be learning here? What
Mm-hmm.
is something
Mm-hmm.
that the universe is trying to get through that I'm not able to see? Now, until I have this understanding, that's when I'm repeating patterns. But when I do understand that I'm being triggered, so that I'm being prepared for something that is big and better, then I can start bringing in all the curiosity and looking for myself. Like I said at the beginning, where am I operating from fear and limitation, and how I can change it into trust and alignment and harmony, and so on. So So my involvement with my clients is, I'm there with them on that journey, but I'm not taking it on me, because I know that when they figure it out,
Mhm.
they can potentially be healthy again. So if
Yes, yeah, and it is a journey, and we're in this constant journey as we move through life, learning different things. And when I talk to clients and they say, "I'm just so tired of dealing with all these things. I'm tired of dealing with this and tired of dealing with that," and they're usually in their 30s, and you and I are a little bit older than 30,
slightly.
slightly. And so I say, well, hello. Um, there's always the other lesson that comes after this one, and we don't know what it is. If we knew what it was, we could do it now. But we are waiting for the next one to come along. And and again, it's like, hey, that's the gift. Let's get a little bit bigger. Let's get a little bit better able to serve in a
Mm.
bigger kind of way, on a bigger stage, a bigger format. Because if we could impart a tiny piece of what you're doing right now into a larger population, I think that we would have less people who are just plain stuck in their apartments or their houses thinking, this is the rest of my life and I'm never going to be able to get out of this. Because Western medicine, as we know, does not encourage and neither has the time or training to help the person understand this. Functional medicine people try to get to the root cause, but again, have the training, usually, unless they specialize, to do the kind of work that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. It's very, it's to me it's so interesting to have this understanding that this is not a life sentence. We know that because we are all energy, we can
Mm-hmm.
move past this. We can change the
Mm-hmm.
energy. We can, like I said, release the blockages. We can, everything is possible. We don't know where the limits are. So when I hear about people that are, still suffering, still believing that they are doomed and that there's no cure,
Mm-hmm.
I feel sad for them. But I know that again, this is their journey, and when they're ready to, to start entertaining the idea that actually emotions and stress has a really big part of how they're feeling, then I welcome them, with open arms. But
Yes.
but it is really so interesting to understand that really you're going through whatever it is that you're going through because somewhere you were not listening, you were not being open up to noticing that you're listening to your negative voice, that you're listening to your fears and the limitations. And now this is your chance to actually say, do you know what? I don't want that anymore. I want my life like I used to imagine them when I was
Mm-hmm.
15, or when there was excitement in my life, when there was
Mm-hmm.
joy. This is the opportunity, because
Mm-hmm.
we say I want to be happy, but we can't be happy if we're doing the same thing again, 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 and we already found out that we're not happy. So what will it be like? What does it take to say, okay, I'm going to dare to try something else? So for me, it's a fascinating journey, and definitely one that I'm very grateful to be a part of.
Yes. And when you reach a point with a client, even if we're doing talk therapy and we're exploring the past, and someone like, sometimes people get involved in lawsuits and it gets really, really entangled. I'm talking about tangled, really entangled.
Mm.
And they're in the battle because they want to win, because they know they're right. But they won't win because it's like an ant going up against like something that's like an elephant, in terms of resources and things like that. And when they reach the point when they realize they're not going to be able to win, and I ask the question, when are you ready to step out of this story? And they get this kind of like deer in the headlight kind of look. When are you ready to step out of this story and give up being right and move into where you really are destined to be, which is empowered, happy, purposeful, giving, taking care of your family, whatever it is. Whatever it is. When are you willing to do that? And it's a different way of thinking, and most people don't think that way. They go, huh?
No, but it's scary. It's the same thing like when are you
Mm-hmm.
going to stop smoking or when are you going to go on a diet or lose weight? It's the same thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The emotional effort that it takes to say, I'm going to knowingly do something different, it's
Mm-hmm.
scary. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
really get stuck there. And it's only when they say, I can't take it anymore, that they're willing to consider, you know, a change. And when people come to
Yes.
me, they say, I've tried everything, nothing works, it's so expensive, I can't take it anymore. And still sometimes they, they kind of, they half believing that there's, that there is a chance that I can help them. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to say to them, there is not a chance that you're not going to get better when we work together, because we work on the two ways. On the first hand, we're going to release blockages from your unconscious mind, sorry, from your energy field. And then on the other side, I'm going to teach you how to get in touch with your unconscious mind. So basically, not listening to your fears and limitations, but listening to that voice that knows everything about you. That voice that has the blueprint of your best version, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So you have no chance to not get better, because as long as you are willing to participate in this journey, you will notice the change and you will feel empowered. You will ask yourself, why did I not do that, you know, years ago, basically.
Yes.
It,
Yeah, I
and
call
it's
it your
wonderful.
internal guidance system, your IGS. You're going to
Yes.
listen to your internal guidance system. It can be called anything. I have a friend who calls hers like my internal business manager. That's going to tell me what I'm going to do with my marketing or whatever. But the answer is always there. But we are so far removed from the idea that it's there,
Yeah.
that we have all the capability all within, because we're always asking everyone else what to do.
Yeah, this is one problem, is that we are always really very happy to listen to what other people are saying, not considering that actually we are listening to their fears speaking up. But that's the other thing, is that yes, we have a negative voice that is so active, and it tells us very realistic lies. So anything that we want to do, this voice comes up and says, "No, you're going to fail. It's not going to work out. You're going to spend all your money. You've tried everything already. If this was real cure, everyone would be healed." The negative voice tells you lies that are so wonderful and perfect that you forget that you have this internal system that, like you said, that tells you, "Hey, just trust me. Just take that first step." And I always say you can't go wrong, because if you listen to your unconscious mind, your internal guide, if you listen to that, you either get the best case scenario that you've always dreamed of, or you're going to get the best lesson that will get you to that best place that you want to get to. Either way, you're not losing out. You're just being guided. And yay, it's wonderful.
Well, I'm going to bring a little neuroscience into this now, okay?
Yeah,
Because, that's my jam, neuroscience.
yeah,
Um, our brains like to protect us, and anything new is scary because the brain knows what's happening all the time, every day, whatever. And anytime we want to do anything new, the brain says, no, let's not do that. I don't know what might happen. I don't know
yeah,
if I can protect you. So I think part of the thing that we get a lot of negative voices from past. When we go back in time and we hear our mother, we hear our father, we hear our brother, we hear our sister, we hear a teacher, and that voice repeats itself, sometimes not even in a way that we can say, okay, I hear that voice, but the voice is still active. That
mm,
voice that says, oh, you're not the pretty one. Your sister's the pretty one. You're the smart one. And we say all these kinds of things to people, and the parents are not doing it because they're mean, and sometimes they are mean parents. They're narcissistic, whatever's,
yeah,
and they're not in touch with their own selves or or what they're saying and how they're actually programming their person. So, um, latest stats are about 80% of all the voices that come in our head are negative.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
that's a scary thing. So
yeah.
I tell my clients, I said, look, those voices are like a big black bird. They're going to land on your head. You decide if they make a nest, because you can easily go shoo, cancel, that's not true. And sometimes as an exercise, I have them write down the actual negative voice, draw a
Mm.
line, and then on the right side put evidence why that's not true.
Yes, exactly.
Because they have to tell themselves why it's not true. And they
Mm.
can do that in the moment. But then the next time the black bird comes, they say a little bit quicker, hey, shoo, that's not true. Get
Yeah,
away.
exactly. I say the same thing. I say, how, can you be 100% sure that this horrible thing that I have in my mind is going to happen? And you can never be 100% sure. So if it's not 100% sure it's going to happen, why are you entertaining it for such a long time? Just don't. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
to me, negative voice is, at the core of everything that is going wrong in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And for people that have a very active negative voice, that's when they allow pressure and stress to come in, and they say, I don't know, I've always done these things in this way, I don't know how to do it differently. And and so even if they know that they're not in the place where they want to be, they're just so scared of trying something new, because again, based on past experiences, they obviously they haven't found the way to do things better.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Do you start with a baby step? How do you get them started?
usually the first conversation I have with people is always about the two voices, the unconscious mind, which is of course, like you said, internal guide system, versus the voice of the negative voice. And I always want to show them how the negative voice is trying to keep them in the comfort zone, keep them small, keep them limited, versus the unconscious mind that is the voice of trust. And the unconscious mind says, I don't need to know how and where and when and how much and all of that, because I don't care about this thing. I know that as soon as you do the first step, everything is going to fall into place, and I'm here to support you, and the universe, and everyone else. So so when people hear that, they can really start to get connected with this negative voice, and how much space at the table they give this negative voice. And so then we look, and then I say, okay, tell me anything from your current days that what is going on, basically. And I'm looking for these triggers, like I mentioned earlier. And then I will listen to what people are saying, and I can hear that is just one lie of the negative voice after another. So
Mm-hmm.
it's that thing of, this illness is never going to go away. I've been ill for such a long time. Why am I not better yet? Or I'm so young. Why am I ill? All of these questions and all of this is just one fear after the next. Now, when you have so many fears and lies in your horizon, you feel doomed. You really don't know how to come out of it. But when I show them that actually this is really just a negative conversation, because your negative voice wants you to do today exactly what you've done yesterday, then there is no reason why you will get better, because your negative voice tells you such brilliant lies. Then I want to show them, I guess I use a little bit of neuroscience, my understanding of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I try and say, hey, but look at it, because again, this is now a pattern. You get up in the morning, and the first thing you do is check where it's painful and what is your pain level. This is a habit, and of course, when you look for pain level, you find one.
You're going to find it. Yes, especially when you're laying in bed.
Right. So here you are. Even the first thing that you do in the morning is already back to the habit, back to the pattern. And then
Mm-hmm.
I share, right, how we can now start rewiring our brains. So we want to start doing things differently. So there's a lot of conversations that are really just very much eye opening, and people, it resonates with them because they really recognize themselves in you know in who they are at the moment and how they do things. And when they hear that actually there is another way to do things that actually will still mean that they get to be themselves, but maybe get better in the process, then they get the hope. Then they get this excitement that actually I don't have to show up with stress and fears all the time. I can see that there is a bigger picture and there is a bigger reason. Like I said earlier, there is a reason why this is happening right now. And when I understand the reason, I don't need to continue with the emotions and the fears. So it's a very, I don't know, it's fun conversations. It's very enlightening conversations. They're very allowing, because we always say, of course, we want to show up with compassion. You didn't know yesterday what you know now, so
Mhm.
let's not be harsh on ourselves on the way that we were yesterday, but just accept that from now on we're going to do things differently in a more empowering way. And
Yes, and accepting that you don't know what you don't know. And
yeah,
what you just said is so true. When people go back in time and they say, how come I didn't do so and so? Well, you didn't know to do so and so because you didn't have the knowledge you have now. Now you're 35, you were 15 then. You had no way to know that that person that you thought you were in love with was really a malignant narcissist and he was going to take you down a road that you did not want to go. You didn't know. You had no red flag ability. You couldn't do it. And when you brought up like talking about first thing in the morning, um, I broke my hip. Actually, it was a horse accident. I got knocked over in the pasture, and it was quite painful. I snapped the top of the ball of my hip off,
mm,
and I was in the pasture for a while. But that's another story.
mm,
So after I got through surgery and got back home, I broke my left hip, and I loved lying on my left side. And so now I could no longer do that. So I had to sleep on my back in a recliner. And so I would get to the point where I would be in this wonderful, like really great sleep. And then I would move, like where I would feel the pinch
mm,
of the titanium thing that's now in my femur. And I would say, oh, whoops. But in my mind, I was always looking for the sweet spot. That's what I called it. The first thing in the morning, I'd be looking for the sweet spot where I could feel like, oh, I'm feeling so much better. Things are getting better. I'm
mm,
healing. I could walk. I could walk with a walker. I
mm,
was living by myself, so I had to be careful. I had people coming in to do exercises with me. But I think concentrating on the sweet spot instead of the pain um, got me out and about and healed so much faster than if I had concentrated on the pain.
yeah, yeah. But a lot of people don't even recognize that there is that possibility of finding, where how am I feeling better, or what is the positive change. And it reminds me, actually, when I, after a session that I work with my clients, a couple of days later I get in touch, and I always say, how are you?
Mhm.
How are you since the last session, and also what are the positive changes that you're noticing since we last worked together. And it's really funny. Some people are like, I try really hard and I can't find anything positive, and that's fine,
Mhm.
because I also usually ask it 2 days after, not at the end of the processing days. Um, but the reason why I'm asking about the positive changes is because sometimes you can have something quite major
Mhm.
disappear already, and because it's disappeared, you completely forget about it. And so when I say what are the positive changes, I'm getting them to get back and appreciate the journey.
Mhm.
When the people say I'm not feeling anything yet, then of course I know that they are again in a rush, right? It's like it's okay. things will
It's
always
okay.
things will fall into place whenever they need to. So
I
yeah,
think also just asking the question about the positive change puts it in the mix of a reframe that there is that possibility coming up. And it sort of gets them to sort of maybe do a little shift about what they're looking at. Now,
true.
here's a question that maybe no one's ever asked you. Can you teach someone to do what you do?
I always say that I'm very happy to teach what I do, but it's someone else's method mostly. So I don't think he will be
Mm-hmm.
very happy with me
Mm-hmm.
teaching it. But
Mm-hmm.
what I do is I don't know anyone else that does that. So the
Mhm.
emotion code, the body code, and the belief code, this
Mhm.
has been invented by Dr. Bradley Nelson. He's
Yeah. Mhm.
operating as Discover Healing, and
Mhm.
he's phenomenal. And that's what I'm saying. He probably won't be happy if I was teaching his stuff.
Mhm.
But I take these codes and I bring my speciality, which is my what I call alignment coaching.
Mhm.
And this, I guess I should be able to teach it to other people. There is a lot of in the work that I do is a lot of intuition because I want
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
listen to what people are saying and hear where the blockages are. What is the thing that they really believe that they can or cannot do, and that's the thing that I use to, yeah, reframe. I guess is a good word. I say to people, because my question, and that is a question that I always ask, how come this is happening right now,
Mhm.
has to mean that this is your invitation to say this is happening for me and not
Mhm.
for me.
Mhm.
And when I look at it as it happening for me, and I'm not a victim and I'm not in the story, I can really push myself forward into my next levels. And so it's, yes, some things happen to people, they're horrendous things. And when I say, what, again, what is the gift and all of that, people can get, you know they can, well, there's a lot of emotion in all of that, but I want to tell them that when they understand the reason how come this is happening for you right now, then the emotions that they had attached to this event will go away, because then the event will be there because we can't change the past. But
Mhm.
when we understand why it had to happen, then we don't have the same emotion. Just like you said earlier, imagine that you were going out with someone and they broke up with you, and it was terrible, but you took your time and now you've recovered. And then later on, you understood, you knew or you heard that this person is really a narcissist,
Mhm.
and it was terrible. And then you can look at it and you say, why did it need to happen? Because it's not in my trajectory to be subjected to all of these kind of terrible things. But I can, I had to do the work and I'm stronger now. And it needed to happen so that I could go through this separation more easily. And now the pain of the separation, or the rejection or whatever it was is not important anymore, because you can see that you needed to learn from it and grow and be bigger and better. So when we understand why things had to happen, we're able to accept that this thing that happened was really a signpost, a gift. Yeah, signpost is a good one.
Yes. Yes. And I'm wondering because my friend that does the energetic healing, he does them in a large group, but he does it with one person at a time. And his premise is, even though I'm working with just you, whatever I'm doing with just you is also happening to everyone who's in the space.
Mm.
So have you ever tried to do this with like a more than one person?
Well, in the emotion code, which is the one thing that potentially you could have done in a group, um, I work with people sometimes in a group, and yes, I also do it one person at
Mhm.
a time. But the other people in the group, they might resonate with the emotion that I'm clearing as well, and then they will
Mhm.
release it. And so it is
Mhm.
possible that more than one person feel the release of emotions. But I won't be able to do, for example, let me release emotions from the whole room,
Mhm.
as sometimes
Sure.
I know that they do with other things. But I also know that when you do work with peers, when there's peer pressure, I guess,
Mhm.
you get results that are very, much more interesting. People feel transformation much faster than maybe when they work on you one on one, with you one on
Yeah.
one.
When they're in a community that's trusting,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
have to have a level of trust within the community.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you certainly have all the skills with empathy and compassion of knowing how to bring people to a place where they can say, "Oh, yeah, I'm not in alignment. How do I get back to that joy and ease that I had at a certain time? Or is it possible? Can I ever feel that wonderful feeling again, and you have seen it over and over and over so many times, you have so much confidence and so much trust that yes, yes, you can do this thing. You can do it.
Yeah.
And I think the belief is so powerful in terms of pushing or opening or trusting. So many things happen when the belief actually starts to match what you want to happen.
Yeah.
It's quite amazing.
Exactly. Exactly. And sometimes I have some people. It doesn't happen very often, but it's always interesting when it does.
Hmm.
And there would be someone that says, it doesn't matter what we do. I'm not healing. I'm not getting better. And for me, it's very interesting, because all it means is that you believe that you've now realigned yourself, but your subconscious mind or your unconscious mind knows that you haven't. And
Hmm.
your unconscious mind will not allow you to move forward until you've corrected what it is that you were meant to correct.
Hmm.
And sometimes I do. I had one client like this recently, and it was very interesting, because I was trying to say, hey, you you are overlooking something. You are not doing something that your subconscious mind wants you to do. And he would say, I've done everything. and and then there's a little bit of a challenging conversation. But when the people are open to say, okay, let's explore this together. What do asking me, if even, what do you feel I can do differently? Then it means that there is a lot of trust. That means that we can really go to town with exploring what it is that they're not doing yet.
Yeah,
That-
I call it peeling the onion.
yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes, because the layers start to come off, and you think, "Oh, okay. Well, this is good. I like the place I'm here now. I've got these layers off." But the onion has a translucence, and if you look really deep down in there, you can see like there's some other things that we haven't quite gotten to.
Yeah.
But that usually takes a guide like you to pull those, help them. Not, I don't mean pull has a like a connotation of force, but to allow that layer to arise, and so you can see what's underneath it.
Exactly. But the other thing is, if the problem is still here, then you haven't finished with the work.
Mm-hmm.
I had a client with psoriasis, for example, and when we started working, her psoriasis was pretty bad. Like a lot of scratching and bleeding, and
And
it was bad.
debilitating.
It was really,
Mm-hmm.
really upsetting her. And by the time we finished working together, it was just about 8 sessions. She wrote to me. She said, "Oh, my psoriasis is 90% gone."
Mm-hmm.
And we both knew that actually there was just a little bit more that she needed to do before it will be gone completely. And that's exactly what happened when she reached that stage. Psoriasis gone, not come back. So it's really also about a person's allowance, allowing for things to happen, for the healing to happen, and trust that when they get there, they will be able to walk out, to rebuild their self-image as a healthy person, and let go of the self-image as an ill person, or sick person, or someone with conditions and stuff. Because it takes courage. It takes courage to say, I am headed into this someone, self-image that I don't have yet. And I
Mm-hmm.
need to trust that I will be okay, that I will still be me, that, I can definitely sympathize with this, pull push of the healing journey.
The self identity is such a fascinating thing,
Mm.
especially like when you talk about psoriasis well, it could be anybody, men or women, but women particularly um, are so self-conscious about their bodies anyway. We're subjected to all the magazines that tell us we should be thin and gorgeous and all those kinds of things, and we certainly don't need any psoriasis to do that. And I had a friend who had psoriasis, and it was pretty extreme. But every time he went on a vacation to Hawaii, it totally disappeared. Totally.
Yeah.
As soon as he got on the plane coming home, it came back. He
Yeah.
couldn't figure it out.
That's what they say, right? It's hidden in plain sight. Yeah.
Hidden in plain sight. Now, how can people get in touch with you? Because I would imagine a lot of people listening to this, there's going to be the group who's going to say, "Oh, this is so woo woo." Oh, there's going to be that group. There's going to be the group who's going to say, "Hey, I've tried a lot of stuff and it hasn't worked. So I'm
Mhm.
willing to give this a shot." And then there's that other group that says, "Hey, I am ready to let go of this story and move on."
Mhm.
How are the people going to contact you? What would be the best way?
The best way is on my website, Untangled Healing. That's it has all the information, all the invitations for chats, invitation for discovery calls, and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, with all the work that I do and all the people that I've helped, on their journey and stuff, I I sometimes think that the conversation that we are having, they're more empowering, they're more important even sometimes than the energy healing. So that combination of, on the one hand, yes, we will clear everything from your energy field so
Mm-hmm.
that you can feel differently. But then I'm going to teach you how to not get back into that place, so you
Mm-hmm.
never have to feel this way again. And so I really do believe that, if someone thinks who and all of that, let's have a chat. I'll show you that there's nothing who about it. It's just about learning to think differently, to approach things differently, to process your emotions, to let go of the stress and all of that. It is a really very fun and very rewarding journey.
It's like an adventure. It's a concrete kind of adventure because you're going to ask concrete questions that are going to come up with concrete answers. And
Mm.
it may, if the person hasn't thought about when they were 11 and they fell off the horse and people laughed at them, and that has affected something about the way they show up today. Um, that's a concrete event that did happen, and they did make a judgment about themselves. And all these are concrete events. We're not making things up. Um, we can equally interpret events as good, bad, or neutral,
Yeah,
and that's why when we have all those stories about witness testimonies, if you interview three witnesses, they have three different stories about what happened, and
yeah,
they're really, really pretty unreliable because their story makes that story.
exactly.
Um,
And
yeah.
that's what I was saying earlier. When you ask someone else's for their advice,
Mhm.
their advice comes from their fears and their own limitations. So please don't listen to other people's advice in this way. Just, you know, work
Well,
out
this,
your own. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And this has been such a wonderful conversation. I want to ask you if there's one nugget you could leave with someone who's sort of thinking about, yes, I really need to do this. I'm like fed up with being fed up. Um, is there one nugget you could say to get them started on this journey besides, get on the computer and go on your website, and they're listening to us? What would be
Yeah.
one thing you could tell them?
I guess that question of, how come this is happening for you right now, right? How come you're now listening to this conversation? It is because you're probably ready to make that change. And when people come and talk to me, if I feel I can't help you, I will say I
Mhm,
can't help you. I won't just say, oh,
mhm.
it really is about that journey together. Um, but yeah, if you've been sitting on the fence for a while, come and have a chat. That's
Yes. I know this has been so much fun to have you on again. I'm hoping that you will agree to come back at some later time because
oh,
there's so much to explore. And I think just people hearing you talk about the possibilities of healing
mm,
starts to open up their mind, their emotions, a conversation. Like, I heard somebody say this and I'm not sure, but I'm going to do a little exploration. Thank you so, so much for being with us today. And I'm hoping that all the listeners will also look at the commercial that I have to end with here because it's important too. that we're going to have a seminar on how the gut microbiome affects dementia and how you can use lifestyle changing that will both help you emotionally and physically in so many ways. It's a LinkedIn Live event, May the 30th at noons Central Standard Time, and I hope that you will join us then. And again, Avni, thank you so much for being with me. You're a lovely, lovely human being, and many blessings on you for the work that you do.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.